I got you. I always mistake whether to say the daf is a hard daf or not, because you don't want anybody to tune it out. But on the other hand, you don't want anybody to have chalisha zadas. Like, is this something that I'm missing? Right? But lamais, it's a hard daf.
You think someone's on right now, and if you say it's a hard daf, they're gonna sign off?
No, but I'm just saying they might tune it out and say, okay, forget it. I'm not going to get it. Sort of like what I did a little bit today. Right? But listen, every time you look at it, you say, okay, I got it, then I don't have it, then I do have it. Also having Chalisha Zadas because it's so many Gemaras from Bava Metzia, Bava Kama, and I'm like, I don't remember this Gemara for the life of me.
There's no such thing as a board daf with Shmuel Grossman and Aaron Horowitz.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah. Yeah, but either way, so let's go. So we're on the bottom of Gimel on the base, 3 lines up from the bottom. So it says that we were going through, we had this strange case, which seemingly seems like a steer. We said if a guy sells a house or a field, and then to somebody, and then somebody comes along and says, this field is not yours. So the seller is not allowed to combine with another aid to prove that it is his field because he has negias, right? Because of course he wants he has the responsibility to make sure his sale was a good sale, and maybe he'll lie. But if he sells a para or a talis, then he can testify. He can testify about it. Right? So we're trying to figure out what's the difference in the ratio to Sefer. Either he's partial or he's not partial. So we had yesterday's teretz, a whole complicated thing with Ruvain and then Shimon and then Levi and etc. So now we go with a different teretz. Ibay is saying 3 lines up. Talking about where each one has. I mean, it's actually a continuation of the previous case. It's talking about where each one has Adim. You know what? I'm sorry. I thought we can get away with cutting out yesterday's case, but we can't. Talking about Ruvain. The claim is that Ruvain stole a field from Shimon and then sold it to Levi. Okay, that's not such an uncommon thing. Then Yehuda came along and said it doesn't go to Levi. It was really his field, and he had proof to it. Right. So now Gemara is saying, we're going to Islay Sadi Lamar, Islay Sadi Lamar. Shimon had Eidim, and Yehuda had Eidim. Rabbanon, and the Rabbanon said, Ara the Kaima take them. So the Rabbanon, we know the Rabbanon says when you have people that each one has proof and they're fighting over a land, what we're going to do is just going to leave it where it is. Don't start up. Just let the status quo. Let the status quo be. Right. So Mamela, where you let the status quo be, so that's going to be a negias for whoever it is that wants to try. Beinik Shimon doesn't ever want it to get to Yehuda. So by him saying Eidos, therefore bringing Eidos, so then that's going to hold it away from Yehuda because it's going to at least keep it by Levi. Right, so Mamela.
So he has Eidos that he's just not saying. Right? He has information that he's withholding.
Yeah. 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 So they. You mean if they have Eidos, then but the problem is we have what's the word? Conflict, not conflict.
Jacob, does that count for Baruch Hu for later on in case you miss it in the later one? It works.
I want to hear at least the Baruch Hu.
Okay.
I'm actually might ask the island if I could stop for 5 minutes to daven Shemona Esrei so that I don't have to run all over the country for a Ma'ariv. If the island would be
the answer is yes.
Avada.
Yes. Yeah, the answer is yes.
I can't concentrate. I don't know if I can concentrate.
Gershon started a good argument, so we'll be entertained the whole time, and he'll never matter.
No, we don't have Aaron Horowitz
on to unmute.
Yeah, we don't have Aaron Horowitz on tonight. So either way, okay. So what's it called? What's conflicting Eidim? There's a word for it. each one has Adim, so therefore, therefore, there's a Chum. What are you supposed to do with this? So basically, whoever has the land is the one that's going to have it as a status quo. Right. So therefore, and then it's going to stay by. 1 second. Who has the land now? Shimon? Why? Shimon. Levi has the land, no?
Gershon shaking his head.
Levi, no, but it doesn't sound. If Levi has the land,
Yeah,
so Levi's
Yehuda's trying to get it. Reuben sold it to Shimon. Shimon said to Levi. Levi had the land, and Yehuda wants to take over now.
well, Shimon and Yehuda want to take over.
Yeah, but
No, yeah, no,
yeah, but Levi's the one sitting there now, right?
Don't Yehuda and Shimon both have Adam, so you just leave it the way it is, no?
right. But so what's the chiddush here? So Shimon has Negias because he doesn't want it to go to Yehuda, right? Shimon has Negias. He doesn't want it to go to Yehuda. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So whatever it is, so that's what the Gemara is saying here. That's why it doesn't work. So on Tomer Aleph now. So Gemara says, "Look, me begazlan." Why do you have to say a whole complicated case where Reuven sold it? Reuven stole it, sold it to Shimon, right? And Shimon wants to prove that it goes late because he sold it to Levi, right? Why do you need that whole chat gadya? Why don't you just say it's all about where he stole it, right? Meaning, why do you have to say that Reuven sold it? And now Yehuda's saying that he doesn't want it to go to Levi. Just say that Yehuda said that Reuven stole the land, and Shimon can't say Edus on behalf of Reuven, right? Why can't you just say that? Because he has Negias. So what answers the Kabbalah Misni Seifa Machaloi Para Machaloi Talis, because we want to say the Seifa. The Seifa says that is a case of he sold a par and he sold a talis. So we don't want to have the Reisha as a Gazlan, a case of Gzela, and the Seifa as a Mechira. So therefore we made the Reisha as a Mechira too. And why? Okay, so why does the Seifa have to be Mechira? Why can't the Seifa also be Gzela? The Dafka Machar Dahavale Yush B'Shinui Rishus, because that's when by a Mechira, for a para and for a talis. So we know from the previous Bava Kama, Bava Metzia, at least this much I remember, that when you have Yush, when the guy gives up, and you also have Shina Rishus, so then that goes out of the guy's property. Right? So therefore there's no, he's miyayish on it, so therefore it's no longer his. Avaloi mecher, but not by mechira, the hadrele, because by mechira it'll go back. Meaning if a guy stole something, meaning how does it go? If a guy by mechira, so you have a yush and a shina rishus. The guy stole something, then he sold it, and the guy gives up on the whole thing. But if he didn't sell it, the hadrele, right, then it could go back. So loitanation nami macher. So the we don't want to say. I'm sorry, I messed up the thing. Again, let me just say the dafka mecher davali yush v'shina rishus. Dafka mechira that has yush and shina rishus. Avaloi mecher the hadrele. Avaloi macher. I'm sorry, but he didn't sell it. The hadrele, in which case it goes back. Loi, that doesn't count. He cannot say edus, because then he has negias. Meaning once it's stolen and there's yush, then he has no negias anymore because the guy is not even entitled to get back his stuff. Right? So Mamela, once it's saying mecher in the sefer, we're saying mecher in the ration, right? Meaning we never understood this concept, but how could it be that a guy steals something from a guy and the guy's miyayish, right? The guy's miyayish, and then he doesn't have to give the item even back. Well, what's the pshat? Say you stole it from him. How you not give it back to him? Right? Okay, but we'll get back to that because you have to pay him back. You just don't have to give him back the item. Let's say you steal a guy's car, and you have it for years, and the guy's miyayish on the car. So the din is, and there's a shina rishus because he gave it to somebody else. So now he sold it to somebody else. So now you find the car, you ask back for the car. The guy says, no, you were miyayish, and there was shina rishus. You don't have to give it back, but you do have to pay for the car. That you have to do. Can't forget that part. You just don't have to give that particular item that was stolen, but you do have to give back the car. Anyways, that bottom line is because the sefer has to be talking about a geneva or gezela, so therefore we say the ratio also. So then the Gemara asks four lines down. It's not wide, right? The sefer nami, but the sefer also nehida miyayish migufei. Good, he was miyayish the goof of the thing, the talis or the para that was stolen. He's miyayish, fine. Midomel mi miyayish, but was he miyayish on the worth of it? Right? He wasn't miyayish on the money. He was hoping, yeah, okay, I'm never going to get my car back or my para or my talis, but he is going to be miyayish. He's not miyayish on getting back the money, right? So then Shimon should have negiyas, right? Because Shimon wants to prove that it was his, and then Mameli can get the crook to pay for it. So when it says loitzricha de miskaz, and we're talking about where the Gazlan died, right? Reuven died, yeah. The Tanan, so Mamela what? The Tanan, a goizel or Michael is one of somebody who steals, and then he feeds it to his kids. Or he gave it to them as a Yerusha, Patura Milasham, then the kids don't even have to pay. Meaning a guy's a crook. He steals a guy's item, gives it to his kids. So now you have years, and you also have Shina Rishus. Right? And then the guy dies, the kids don't have to pay back. Right? The kids don't have to pay back because they're not crooks. What do they have to pay it back for? Their father owed money to somebody, but that's for a Geneva. They're not mechuyev to pay that back. So that's what we're talking about. So it says, "V'lukma b'yorish." So why don't we just say that he gave it over to his kids? Why do you have to even put somebody who bought it? Why do you have to add but that somebody bought it to the mix? Why don't you just say a yorish? So it says, so that goes it fits according to the shita that says that a yorish is not the rishus of lekeach. Meaning, lekeach and a yorish are two different things, right? Meaning, you do have a shina rishus by lekeach, but you don't have a shina rishus by Yerusha, right? Because we look at the Yerusha like it's just the father's; it just transferred over to his kids. So then shaper, then that works, right? Because we have to talk about lekeach because the yorish, it's in the same rishus, so you don't have this whole case. But according to Mandoma, that says that the rishus of the lekeach is the rishus of the yorish is like just lekeach. Michael Meimar, what are you going to say? Right? Fine. But kasha, you have another kasha. Kasha le'lavaya. You have another kasha d'avaya. Mipnei shachri yusay olav. Right? Now, how do you teach when the Gemara says that he has negiyas because the achrayus of the field is on him? When you say achrayus is on somebody, who's that normally referring to? That's referring to the seller, right? Here it's not talking about that. It's talking about it's on the buyer. Yeah. It doesn't really fit into the terminology of what achrayus means. Yeah. So again, void kasha leila b'ayim. Neshachriusei olav ein achriyusei olav. Right, the Gemara is saying, in one case, achrayus is on him, so therefore he has nikiyas by the land, and by the par and the talis, there's no achrayus. Right. So it should be it should be because it's gonna go back to him, or it's not gonna go back to him. So therefore, we slug up this whole thing. So that's a chizik for anybody that doesn't understand this Amid so well, which is me, right? We're knocking out this whole Gemara anyway. So now we're going with a different shita. Yeah. So Ella the Rabban Bar Shmuel. It goes like Rabban Bar Shmuel. Dama Rabban Bar Shmuel. Mishmei de Shmuel. Hamaycher sadal chaveiroi shaloi ba'achrayis. To somebody who sells a sada to his friend. Shaloi ba'achrayis. Ein meid lo yaleh. So now we need to, at least I need to twist my brain here a little bit. and every time I do this, I think I get it, and I don't think I got it. A guy sells his field to his friend, like we said yesterday's stuff. The default is that when you sell a field, it's with responsibility, right? I sell my house to somebody, and there's a lien on the house. I lose my house, right? But here, the guy specifically sold the house, and he put a lien on it, right? He put a lien on it, and I didn't. He said he put a t'nai that even if there's a lien, he's not responsible, and the guy, the buyer, totally loses out, right? So we're talking about that's the case here. The guy sold the field without any responsibility whatsoever, which really makes the buyer a fool, right? Ain made loyala. The seller cannot be an aid to say that he owned the field because he has negias. Why? Because the seller is basically his Baal Chayv will go collect from this field, right? And the seller has no loss from it because what's the loss? He didn't have a chrayas for it, right? So he wants it. He has negias that this sale should be considered a good sale because he's got that. Because if it's not a good sale, he's going to have to pay back his loan, right? Meaning it's the opposite of what we normally do with achrayas. Normally with achrayas, you don't want the field to be taken away from you, right? Here he doesn't care because if the guy's going to if a lender's going to come take the field, he sold the field without achrayas. So the guy he sold the field to is going to have to pay back the field regardless of what I want over here, right? So v'dafka by a sada, but that's only by a house or a sada. Of a par of a talis, but a par and a talis laimi by on my base now. So a par and talis again has no achrayas, right? Any metalton that we know does not have achrayas. The stoma, right, where there's no. He didn't say anything about a lien on it because the loy mishtabele, unless somebody specifically says there's going to be a lien on his metaltalin. Metaltalin are never meshubed. Like we said, the reason why they're never meshubed is because there's no rumor out there. There's no rumor out there about metaltalin. Meaning karka, there is. Karka, you're supposed to know, oh, this guy made a lien, this guy didn't make a lien, right?
There's no rumor on your car. All of a sudden, I see it.
No,
down
because
the block
nobody knows.
I see it in somebody else's driveway. All of a sudden,
What?
it was in your, it's always in your driveway, and now I see it 2 blocks away in somebody else's driveway. There's no call about that.
No, there's no call because it changes hands so fast, metaltalin. It's not recorded. I could sell you my car. Like today, a guy asked, 2 guys text with it the same one. One guy says, "Can I sell my $700 beat up car to somebody?" And a minute later, the guy says, "Can I buy somebody $700 beat up car?" Like you guys can't hook up so you could text the same. You got to each one text your own shaila, right? So I'm saying, but then he's selling his beat up car. It's done Hamish, right? Then he's gonna go flip it to somebody else. There's no way to keep track of it. So Mamela, a guy can never say, "Oh, why are you buying this junk of him? You know it could be taken away from you." The guy's a big balchay.
So now every car is like that because some people are sell Hamish cars.
Metaltalin. But the truth is, I don't know. Maybe you're right. Cars is already much more official. I wonder, Taka, what the Gemara would say. What the Gemara would say by cars, right? Because cars is everything is documented. No. If you want to register it and insure it, it's all documented. So maybe that has a call. So maybe Taki, you're right. But I'm saying everything else doesn't have a call. I go decide to sell somebody a watch, or anything like that. Yeah. So anyway, so b'stama loy mishtavdeli. My timer. Why? Metaltalin, because it's metaltalin. Metaltalin l'bal chayv loy mishtavdi. Like we just said, metaltalin are never meshubah to a bal chayv. V'afagav the kosavle. And even though he wrote Miklim Badal Kaspe, even from the coat that's on his shoulders, I don't know if anybody ever paid attention to when they read the ksuba, or if you could even hear it, but that's one of the lashonis in the ksuba, right? That the husband is saying that I'm going to take care of my wife, even if I have to take the shirt off my back, right? Which I don't know if that ever happens, but that's at least what it says, right? That even though he says in a star that he's going to take it from the shirt off his back, but that's metaltalin. So how do you go say to somebody that you're going to take the shirt off your back? Hani mili, meaning that sounds like you're taking achrayas for anything and you're going to pay it back. Hani mili isnu beinayu. That's if you write in the star that's going to be the shirt off your back. That's if you have a shirt on your back. But if you write in the star that you're going to do with the shirt off your back and you don't even have a shirt on your back, then even though you eventually get the shirt, that is not going to be mortgaged to the guy. But if it's not here, then it's not, right? So meaning it basically is if the guy didn't specify that the metaltalin are going to be meshubed, so then the guy who sold it can say Eidus because there's no skin off his back, no pun intended. There's no skin off his back. What's going to happen? Right? He wasn't responsible for it anyways because even if he defaults on his loan, it's not going to be taken away from these metaltalin. Ella, what it says, Ella afilu. They said that's one thing, that even if there's no shibud, it's your standard metaltalin. Fine. Ella afilu aso apaitiki nami. So we know what paitiki is. Paitiki is when you say that I am going to borrow money from you. I'm going to borrow money from you, and I'm going to pay you back with this cow, specific cow, or this specific cow. That's called a paitiki. This is what you're going to take your payment from. So that sounds like it is meshubed. Right? So meaning a guy sells his cow to somebody. He says, meaning he took this cow and he said, this is going to be payment to somebody. And then the guy goes and then he sells the cow. So there it sounds like the cow, he is mechuyev to pay that cow. And if somebody's going to say Eidus that cow wasn't really his to sell, then he's going to be messed up. But he's saying, he still is not mechuyev to pay it back, my time. But if somebody makes his evid into an apaitiki, or machre, and then he sold the evid, the balchayiv can collect from that slave. But if it's shar and chamari made in a paitiki or machre and he sold it, ain balchayiv goyvem, he cannot. The balchayiv cannot get from it. Right? What's the difference between a slave and a shar and a chamar? My timer. What's the reason? Hi is lekala, because a paitiki of a slave has a call, meaning people know when slaves, for whatever reason. I guess the same thing like a car, like you're saying, David. A slave, people know when slaves change hands. People know about it.
Teres Chaim says because the Evid himself tells people. Because he can talk. That? Teres Chaim says that.
Oh yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, it's a shayla exactly why there's a put together, and some others want to say
no. I understood it that for slaves, this guy got a new slave. This guy's like it was like cars. People for some reason yent about cars. Right? Everybody knows what everybody else drives. At least
right. I think that's what the some Acharonim say that that's the reason why.
That's
because you made a paitiki, not because it talks. Because you made it into a paitiki, it has a call.
Right. Interesting.
Right. Evid has more of a
okay. Highest lekolav, or less lekolav. The reason is because an Evid has a call, meaning again, when something has a call, then a person should have known. A person should have been made aware. What are you buying this thing for from this guy? You know that everything you know that he's a Baal Chayiv. Don't buy it. But if it's just metaltalin, then he wasn't meant to know about it. So therefore, he's not going to lose his stuff.
Jacob, I also want to clarify, by a loan, you could collect from anything the guy owns. It's just when he sells it to a third party, that's the difference between metaltalin and karka, right? Kol, not kol.
What are you saying?
If I borrow money from you, you could collect anything from me. My metaltalin, non-metaltalin, anything. I'm a shubba to you 100%. It just, the nafkamina is if I sell it to a third party, then the Baal Chayiv can't collect metaltalin, but they could collect karka. But metaltalin does become a shubba, right? To the Baal Chayiv.
No, why? In what case?
In a straight case, when I'm not selling it to a third party. I borrow money from you.
Right. Oh, you mean
I owe you money.
Oh, that's
yeah. So all of my metaltalin are still meshubah to you. It's only if the third party comes in, that's where there's
Yeah, Ben, Ben is saying a good thing. If I borrow money from somebody and I can't pay him back, then he can come take my car. Obviously, you have to go through Bezdin, et cetera, et cetera. Sometimes you don't have to go through Bezdin, but he could take my car. That's not what we're dealing with. We're dealing with when I went and borrowed money, and then I went and sold my car to somebody else, or my cow, or my talus. Then the Shiba doesn't transfer over. It only transfers over if the person buying from me should have known that this thing was already was indebted.
Right. You want Lakuchas to lose out.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, very good. Second Gemara says, okay. Maybe he did a kinyan agav, right? Meaning we know that you could sell. We said karka, there is responsibility. Metaltalin, there's no responsibility. But what happens if you buy like we do on Pesach? And we always go to that example. On Pesach, how's the guy? One of the kinyanim that the guy is buying the chametz is that he's getting the metaltalin, which chametz is metaltalin, and he's being koined agav the karka, right? So there, we're going to say it does have responsibility because it piggybacks, the metaltalin piggyback on the karka, right? So lechus juma akli metaltal agav mekarkoi, dama rabba I akli metaltal agav mekarkoi. If somebody is makna metaltal and agav the karka, koni mekarkoi, koni metaltali, then he's kind of the karka and he's kind of the metaltal.
So what's the havamina that metaltal and karkoi could do agav?
What?
What's the havamina that you could do with agav?
It's not a havamina.
Not a havamina. That is the din.
What?
That is the din.
You could do metaltal and agav karka.
If you do metaltal and agav karka, the
other way. I mean, karka agav metaltal.
Yeah, since the car it piggybacks the metaltal and piggyback on the karka. Since the karka is meshubed, so the metaltal also go with it. Yeah, that's the din. I mean, I didn't know the din till today, or maybe I did many times over, but it was as if I didn't because I forgot it. Right? So
is the kasha of the Gemara here that since there's a coil on the karka, the coil should transfer agav the karka to the metaltali?
I have no idea how. I have no idea how the lumdus works, but that's certainly an option.
If metaltalin has no coil, it has no coil. Why would there be a coil just because it was agav the karka?
I hear. I don't know. I'm not sure how the lumdus works. So maybe you and Zev is asking the same question. Yeah. But anyways, okay, but that's what the Gemara is saying. I mean, basically the Gemara is going to go through the next few kashas. How do we know that there's no shibud on these metaltalin? Maybe there is, and if there's a shibud on the metaltalin, then the guy has negiyas, and therefore he can't testify. That's basically
what is the Gemara talking about? Where you sold your land to the Baal Chayv or to a third party? What's the case? You sold it
you sold him the house with the what do you call it? There's a whatever. You sold the house with the contents.
Everything inside.
I think that's everything I'm saying. I think because I'm a little confused by this or a lot confused, but that's what I think. Right. So there you're going to be responsible. Meaning, let's say this guy owes $1 billion and he sells a house for $900 million. Right, with its contents, it's worth $900 million. So that
as is, yeah.
Right, and then then even though half the contents of the house or all the contents of the house are metaltalin, they're still all meshubed to the guy because they're meshubed agav the house. So maybe that's what happened here with the para. So Rav Chisda, but Rav Chisda says that only works when he has to write in the start to loika asmachta. This is also in the ksuba. It's not like an asmachta. An asmachta, like we know from the gambling sugya, it's not an asmachta, meaning it's not a what's it called? Conditional, right? Meaning it's not conditional. Meaning if it's not a real mechira, and it's not a matana, it's not a mashkin. This is what the Rashbam says it. It's a shibud, so it's similar to an asmachta. So it's saying that maybe it's only an asmachta, and the whole thing shouldn't really work. So we're saying if he has to write in the start, it's not an asmachta. It's a legitimate a legitimate, what's the word? It's a legitimate, not contract. It's a legitimate transaction. It's a legitimate transaction. Udaloi ketufsa the story, and it's not like a tufsa the story, which is I'm not just writing a template for a star and it's really meaningless. Like sometimes you can write a star, Bezin can write a star, use it as a template. It's not a tufsa the story, meaning it's a legit. And you have to make sure you emphasize that it's legit. So maybe that's the situation here. So my answer is, no, we know where he bought and sold. He flipped it right away. So there was no time. He couldn't take any loan from when he bought, right? Because we know that karka and anything is only meshuvah when it's owned before the loan happens. But here, he flipped it so fast, so we know that he didn't have time to take a loan in between. So fine. Then the Gemara says, well, another chashash the ikni who? Why don't we be chashish that maybe he's going to do he's making something meshubed that he's going to purchase, right? Meaning he tells the guy, I need to take money from you. I need a loan from you, right? But I don't have anything. I don't have anything as for collateral. But I'm going to go be buying a watch tomorrow, and then that watch will be collateral, right? So maybe that's what happened here. Even though he did a flip, he flipped it so fast, but maybe he took a loan and he said that I'm going to be collateralizing the loan with that, right? Shamas Mirah. So and then the Mela, if that would be true, then the Gemara has a shaila at the end of Bava Basra whether they can do this or not. And then Shamas, we would hear from this case the Ikni Kana Umachar, right? If somebody he's going to be kaina something, how did it go? He's gonna buy something, and then he bought it and he sold it. Kana v'Irish, or he bought something and then he gave it as a Yerusha. Loy mishtabed. It's not meshubed. Meaning, since our Gemara didn't think that this was an option, must be that there's no shibud. So when it says loy tricha, no, it does not necessarily. The Kamri Adam Yadinam Be Bahai, no, we know this guy never owned land. Adam come and say that this guy who sold the para, the thing, or the talis, never owned any sort of land. So since he never owned land, there's no way that it could be no agav. So the Gemara says, Papa. So one more kasha, but didn't Rapapa say? Because again, we're talking about the cases talking about where he sold it without achrayas. It means once the guy sells it, buyers, keepers, what's it called? What's the phrase? Buyers, weepers, something? No. Binders, keepers, something. Weeper, I don't know. Whatever. Meaning the guy's a sucker. Bottom line is the guy's a sucker. He bought the field. Losers, weepers. How to go? Okay, whatever. I mean, the guy's a sucker, right?
Finders, keepers, losers, weepers.
There you go. Okay, I don't know if that fits
we had to grow up with that one.
Yeah, if so, that's what we have over here. So then, hamaychet. But the problem is that hamaychet sadul chaver shloi b'achrayis upa b'achay v'tarfa, and the Baal Chayv come and takes it away. Ain't a chayzer alav. He cannot go back to get his money. Nimtzas she'ena shaloi chayzer alav. Meaning, again, we're saying if a guy sells a field, shaloi b'achrayis, and then a Baal Chayv, meaning a lender comes and says, "Hey, buddy, that field is mine because he owes me money." So he said he's a loser because he bought it without achrayis. But that's only if the fellow who borrowed the money actually owned this land and now it's getting taken away from him. But if he sold him the Brooklyn Bridge, then you do go take it away, right? So maybe here Taka, he never owned the land. So there he has negias. And because he wants to make sure that they say that he did own the land, so that he doesn't get it taken away. So it says, we're talking about not land, we're talking about the cow. We're talking about or the parah. We're talking about it. It's the daughter of the donkey, meaning they recognize that this donkey. I don't know how they recognize because we say that animals are not recognizable. I think we'll say that in the next stuff, right? But somehow they recognize that this animal taka belonged to him. So therefore, we're not choshed that somebody's going to come along and say, this part that you sold is not really, it was never his part. Okay, so that's the back and forth. Then Rav Zvira Amar, Rav Zvira says a different shot. Rav Zvira Amar, afilu nimtza she'ena shaloi. Even if we find out that the land is not his, he cannot come take away the land from him, right? I sold you this land, shaloi b'achrayis. So you can't come back to me. Somebody's coming and saying that this land was never mine, meaning I sold the guy land and I said, I'm not taking any responsibility for this land, right? Fine. Now somebody comes and says, the guy that you just bought the land off of he sold you the Brooklyn Bridge. He did not own the Brooklyn Bridge. And he sold it to you. So we're saying, even in that case, it will not get taken away because the seller could say, yeah, you're a sucker. I sold it to you, shaloi b'achrayis. And included in shaloi b'achrayis, maybe I never even owned the field in the first place. Right? Meaning, even if the Rashbam says, even if they prove that he never owned the land, it doesn't make a difference. He told the guy there's no responsibility here whatsoever. Right? So Mamela, according to this, so what's the price talking about? The buyer was never maida that it belonged to the seller. Meaning, even if he was never maida, the seller can say edus, because there's no loss there. Yeah, because nobody's ever going to take it from him because since he sold the land, shaloi b'achrayis, and the parah shaloi b'achrayis, it's not a problem. Okay, we'll stop over there. I hope this was semi-understandable. The next stuff at least is easier, right? At least I think it's easier.